Hi everyone, Pam Gregory, astrologer. I'm going to be speaking to you today about the first half of April and in particular the new moon that we have coming up in Aries on the 7th. But firstly, just to remind you of the background, the bigger picture astrologically, we have many planets in what are called mutable signs this year. And they are signs where things can change very rapidly from one day to the next. So we may see a lot of flux with this sort of situation, a lot of social change happening very quickly, but it also means in a very positive sense that you can make change in your own lives very rapidly too. We also still have this ongoing square between Uranus and Pluto, which has been running for 4 years now, and I've talked about this a great deal, but it is very connected to sudden, eruptive, and often shocking events, and again we've seen those in Europe recently, but in a positive sense it's about breaking down old ways of being to break through to the new. And Pluto in particular represents institutions, governments and financial systems and other paradigms which have become fossilized and really out of date with new thinking, and they are being challenged, and we can see that in many ways in the world. And what is going to add to that challenge is that Uranus from now until about mid-2017 broadly is going to be travelling together with a minor planet called Aries. Now, Aries is like a vamped up version of Uranus, if you like. It is known as the goddess of chaos, and they are both in Aries, the sign of the warrior. So there's some strong assertive energy happening at the moment. It's also, Uranus is very much, remember, the planet of individuality, and I'll be coming back to that in a moment. But also as background we have this important Tsquare running for the whole month between Jupiter in Virgo, Saturn in Sagittarius and Neptune in Pisces. Now in a global sense that has been very connected to the migrant crisis, and I've spoken about that, so you can check that out in previous videos, but it's also about agreements. The Jupiter-Saturn part of it is very much about agreements. They can be agreements about the migrant situation, but those agreements can then slip or dissolve or be undermined by legal issues, Saturn and Sagittarius, or practicalities, and so they may encounter obstacles and therefore unravel. It's also partly about Britain's relationship with Europe too, the whole EU referendum in the UK, if you're familiar with that. But any international agreement may have the potential to slip and dissolve over the next few months. So be aware of that, and I'll come back to what that means in our personal lives in a moment. But we have this new moon happening in Aries at 18 degrees 04 of Aries. It's happening on the 7th of April, and it's happening at 4:23 a.m. Pacific and 12:23 p.m. UK time. Now this is an action-oriented new moon. In fact, right through April there's 6 planets in fire happening at this new moon. We have the Sun, the Moon, Venus, Uranus all in Aries. We also have Mars and Saturn in Sagittarius. So we've changed the tone very much from the dreamy, blissful feelings that we had at the beginning of March with all those planets lined up in Pisces. It's now much more impatient and assertive, and Mars in Sagittarius in particular can get quite impatient, quite revved up on wanting change. So certainly action is going to be likely to happen at this new moon. It's very high energy also because it's a supermoon. It's the second supermoon of the year, which means that the moon is closer to the Earth in its orbit and therefore has a greater pull on the Earth gravitationally, electromagnetically. It also has a greater pull on our own psyches as well, and I think we're going to feel that. Particularly you'll feel it if you have any planets or angles between 15 and 20 degrees of the cardinal signs. That's Aries, Cancer, Libra or Capricorn in your birth chart. So Aries is the sign of the warrior. It has a lot of courage. It's also the pioneer. It's the goal setter. It's the high achiever. So it's important to know where 18 degrees of Aries falls in your chart, because this will tend to highlight, and we'll kind of know it subconsciously, but this will tend to really crystallize for you where you need newness, where things have become too comfortable or familiar, or you've done things in this same way for too long perhaps, where you might feel stuck or stale. There's going to be this surge for newness and breaking out, changing things, making it different, putting in a lot of energy. So if it falls, say, if 18 degrees of Aries falls in your 5th house, which is play and pleasure, having fun, do you have enough of that in your life? Or has that become a bit flat and stale? Is this in your 11th house of friendships, where you've had friends for a long time, but actually you're really feeling the need for some new connections coming in your life, in a social sense, a network sense? So this new moon will tend to really highlight that. In addition, this new moon, we have Mars, which rules Aries, coming into a wide aspect, but nevertheless energizing that Jupiter, Saturn, Neptune Tsquare that I talked about earlier. Now this can be really helpful in a personal sense, because it will energize the ability for us to see the bigger picture. Jupiter Neptune is very much about bigger horizons, bigger dreams, bigger visions for our lives. And this new moon in Aries, particularly because the Sun and the Moon are conjunct Aries, is about living our truth, living our individuality, our authenticity in a brave way, stepping out into new areas for us to really live on that path of truth for us. So Mars coming into aspect with that Jupiter, Saturn, Neptune Tsquare will really help to give some focus to creating a bigger vision and a bigger dream for ourselves. What is wonderful as well is the Sabian symbol. The Sabian symbols were channeled many, many years ago, but are very accurate. The Sabian symbol for this new moon at 18 of Aries is the magic carpet hovers over depression in the industrial areas. I think that's really interesting, because whether you feel a bit stuck and stale and depressed in an area of your own life, or whether you're quite depressed about some situations in the world, this will help to elevate our view. The magic carpet, it'll help us to move to the top of the mountain, to move to a higher spiritual perspective and get a bigger picture on how we can bring change into our own lives, but also change into the world. This new moon, Sun and Moon, highlighting that Uranus-Pluto square, it's all about change for the better. How do we make our own lives, but also the world, a better place? And what is very positive this month, from the 14th to the 20th of April, we have a beautiful grand trine in Earth. Now what that means is we have essentially an equilateral triangle of 3 planets in Earth signs. We have Mercury in Taurus, which is moving from 13 to 20 degrees over those days I mentioned of Taurus. We have Jupiter, it's about 13, 14 of Virgo, and we have Pluto at 17 degrees of Capricorn. So if you have anything between about 13 and 17 degrees of those earth signs, Taurus, Virgo, Capricorn, you're really likely to feel the benefit. Now this can bring abundance, success, recognition, wisdom, money. It can bring real achievement into the picture for you, leadership, optimism. So see where these fall in your chart, because that can really help to underpin the meaning for you. I mean, for instance, if you have an ascendant in your chart, a rising sign of late Scorpio or early Sagittarius, Pluto is likely to be falling in its transit in the heavens at the moment in your 2nd house of money. Transiting Mercury will be likely to be falling in your 6th house of day-to-day work. It's also health. And Jupiter will be likely to be falling in your 10th house of career. So this could be wonderful in terms of achieving something that you've worked for a long time, which really comes to blossom in your career, and you'll achieve a lot of success abundance and recognition with that. If you have Mercury moving through your 6th house, connecting to those two planets, Jupiter and Pluto, it can also bring profound healing in for you. It can be a wonderful time of deep healing. So if you don't know where these aspects that I've referred to fall in your own chart, it would be really helpful for you to check out the link appearing above me, or same link appearing below in the description. That will take you to my tutorial videos, and they explain very simply and clearly for you how you can identify the houses in your own birth chart and what everything I've talked about today means for you. And you can refer back with every update I ever do to what it means for you in your life. So it's really, really helpful to do that. So there's some very vigorous, high intensity, high achieving energy coming in this first half of April. So really use it positively to set a new intention at that new moon, set a new intention for you in your particular area of life that needs newness, because that new intention will carry you through for another month. And we also have a lot going on in the second half of April, which I'll be talking about in the next video. But in the meantime, enjoy this wonderful, focused, energetic, pioneering new moon at 18 of Aries on the 7th of April. Thanks so much for listening.